All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. You can follow the show, really just follow me on the Twitters at CalebVUA. That'll be right down here on the screen whenever you're watching this. Outside of that, boys and girls, we have got football on all cylinders. But fun fact before we start, and I quote, yeah, no fun fact today, just that's kind of the internal monologue right now. Things have been hectic. Things have been hectic for your boy. And all of that is to say, I'm sure there's news that's dropped today. I saw Harrison Butker got an extension. Lo and behold, some off-field comments that don't constitute a crime did not affect the way that he was paid. Cool, good for him. I'm sure there was other stuff going on. I did not open my phone or really look at it from about the hour of 8:55 to 6 o'clock. So, yeah, my brain is scrambled eggs right now, more so than it usually is. But we're back. We're back, folks. We have got a loaded episode for you today. Less headlines than last week, mostly just because, again, didn't really look at my phone today. There's some stuff I'm missing. I understand that. But there's, it's not any sort of major headlines, right? Not that I know of, anyways. Obviously, Connor Stallions, the NCAA apparently had proof that Connor Stallions was the one on the Central Michigan sidelines. Hilarious. Just no other things to say about that other than hilarious, and maybe Michigan gets some sort of NCAA penalty, and maybe they just ignore it. It's kind of what they've done in the past on that front. Outside of that, though, we got the AFC West preview. We're going to get to that here in just a few minutes, but let me just quickly run through the headlines of what happened over the course of the last week. First and foremost, plot twist, the judge reversed the ruling in favor of the NFL in the Sunday ticket trial. So much for the way we watch football changing forever. Still going to go through appeals. Still probably going to be in appeals for a long time, but I guess the judge did not see ample evidence against the NFL there. The jury felt differently, but that's why a judge is there. So he reversed that decision. And now the onus falls on the plaintiffs to file an appeal here, which I am 100% sure they will do if they have not already. So we'll keep an eye on that. That'll still probably be percolating for the next couple years or so. Big win by the NFL, though. Big win. Not a big win for the fans who are looking for literally just one team to watch year-round. Just buy the Sunday NFL ticket for that team. It sucks for us, but for the NFL, congrats. You get to save even more money on the most profitable league in the entire world. It is what it is. Outside of that, we got more extension news, big time extensions coming down the pipe here. First and foremost, we got DJ Moore, Bears wide receiver, got traded there as part of the Bryce Young deal. Last offseason, he signs a 4-year, $110 million extension. $82.6 million of that is guaranteed. The Bears are looking like a downright competent organization, and it disgusts me. It disgusts me to my core, but however, I am unbiased. Well, I state my biases. I prefer facts over the bias. So, tip of the cap. I'm not wearing a cap, but quick salutes. Although we learned from the Abella Danger lookalike in the Olympics that it's the left hand is the non-military salute. The right hand is the military salute. So I got to start saluting with my left hand. I don't know if it's the same thing here in America as it is in Poland, but it is what it is. There, you gotta respect the troops when you can. Outside of that, though, it really does. It disgusts me to my core. But credit where it's due. The Bears are extending their good players. They're not letting them hit free agency, and that's what competent organizations do. That's what I do on my Madden franchise. And look at that, the Vikings have won 7 straight Super Bowls on Madden. So I run my organization competently. Ryan Poles does the same. That's really the moral of the story there. Another giant extension. This one is a record breaker. This one kind of been alluded to for the last week. I alluded to it on last week's episode. Tristan Wirfs said he was sitting out of practice looking for a new deal. That new deal has come down the pipe, and it is a massive one. 5 years, $140 million on the extension. Over $88 million of that is guaranteed to stay in Tampa for the long term. One of the best young tackles in the game, getting every cent that he deserves, and they're going to need him big time this year. So another quality organization paying their good player who they drafted. Different situation from DJ Moore, but still the same principle. Pay your good players while you have them in the building. Tampa Bay also looking like a downright competent organization. Thank you, Tom Brady, for bringing that paradigm to town. Up next, we got Justin Herbert. He was diagnosed with a foot injury and will miss the entirety of the preseason, may bleed over into the regular season. However, all indications are that he will be ready for that regular season opener. I don't think they're going to rush him, but at the same time, I think Justin Herbert does really want to be out there, so worth monitoring. It is a plantar fascia injury, so might be something that lingers throughout the year. It is worth noting, which is why I have got it in here. Also, one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league. I mean, he got criminally underrated, I would say, in I think it was the NFL Network's ranking of quarterbacks. NFL Network also ranked Patrick Mahomes the fourth best player. I guess that was voted by the players, but they ranked Patrick Mahomes the fourth best player in the NFL. Might as well get the third Super Bowl trophy in 3 years up there on his mantle, because that's all the motivation the man needs. I mean, they're just poking the bear, and I think they're doing it on purpose on that one. But yes, another great quarterback, Justin Herbert, is out for the remainder of the preseason. Another big-time training camp injury, DeAndre Hopkins. He is out for 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury suffered during training camp. That might also bleed into week 1 or 2 or 3 of the regular season. It's a 4 to 6 week timeline. But we'll be revisiting that at some point. A little bit, kind of actually the same sort of situation as the Chargers, where, he could come back. You're not necessarily expecting a whole lot this year. Might as well just be safe, especially with a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who's on the other side of 30. You want to, preserve his health for as long as you possibly can, especially since he's the number one wide receiver with a bullet right now. So they're going to be cautious with him, I would imagine. Another big-time extension, really not even extension, it's more of a restructure. The Dolphins restructured Tyreek Hill's deal to give him $90 million, with $65 million of that guaranteed over the next 3 seasons. Hey, a winner at the bank, not so much, well, a winner at the bank and a loser at the bank. That's the best way to put it. When you impregnate an average of 5 random women a year, you're going to be hurting at the bank. But when you get $90 million in a state with no income tax, you know what? It helps. You have the money to support those 15 million kids, or however many kids that Tyreek Hill has at this point. And, I want to take this opportunity just to say, if ever there was an opportunity for a doctor's office, someone that specializes in vasectomy surgeries, to just, reach out to Mr. Hill and say, hey, looks like you got some elite all-time great swimmers working for you and your body. Would you like to have no more children? How would you like to sleep with any woman that you want and not get them pregnant? Does that sound like a good deal? Because it sounds like a great deal to me. And then, you get some free advertising, all that good stuff. I mean, it would make so much sense. So much sense if this ad would get off my screen for the first part. That's annoying. It just simply won't leave my screen. Yes, the click box was a little bit off from where the actual X was. Classic okey doke fake by the advertising there. Shout out Bitdefender, I suppose. But yeah, this is a golden opportunity for some enterprising doctor's office to come out there, approach Tyreek Hill and be like, hey, we know you're having trouble putting on a condom, so how about you just don't change any of your habits and have next to zero opportunity to have another child? How about that? You've already got 20 at this point. You might as well cut it off now and just be busting nuts with reckless abandon. And of course, I snuck that in there right before the 10-minute threshold. So shout out to YouTube. Not that I was going to get monetized in the first place, but yeah, shout out to YouTube on that one. So yeah, just something to keep in mind if Tyreek Hill is listening. Just something to keep in mind. Great player. Maybe I wouldn't want. Maybe I wouldn't want my female relatives hanging around him. But great player. One of the best players in the entire league. The best player in the entire league, if you believe the NFL players and their voting. But I digress on that front. Final headline we have got here before we get into the AFC West preview. The Titans, once again on this headline segment, they continue to buy into improving their roster as they've signed safety Quandre Diggs to a 1-year, $5 million deal. For my money, the best free agent safety on the markets between him and Justin Simmons. And I think Quandre Diggs just has a little bit more left in the tank. And they basically just transplanted the Seattle secondary from Seattle to the great state of Tennessee, in the middle of Tennessee, as Quandre Diggs is now reunited with Jamal Adams. They got a lot of experience on the back end. That's the most complimentary way of putting it. I simply don't know what Jamal Adams is going to give you in a coverage standpoint, or from a coverage standpoint at this point in his career. I think Quandre Diggs can give you a little bit more, though. So, hey, not a bad pickup there. They've already got that built-in chemistry. Not that it really helped with their secondary last year, but hey, I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist at the end of the day. I think Quandre Diggs, if nothing else, it fits with the ethos of the Titans' entire offseason, which is just pick up quality players, field the best team that you can, and build a culture around the new head coach that way. So I like all the moves that the Titans made. Still don't think they're a very good team, but I like the moves that the Titans made. We'll see if Will Levis is actually good this year, because they've given him every single opportunity to go out there and ball this year with everything they're putting around him. We'll see if he actually does that. All right, so that is our headlines. With that, let me just pull up this note that I'm absolutely sure I've not touched in the last, I don't know, year, give or take. It's been around a year since the last time I looked at this note. So while I just erased everything that was here previously, I'm just going to talk, just going to vamp. How are you all doing today? Are you good? Are you doing all right? I'm doing stressed. That's probably the best way to put it. I am stressed. I am still probably adapting a little bit to an office setting, and it is it's something. It's absolutely something right now. Nothing good, but it is something. So I mean, I hope you guys are doing a little bit better. I hope you're enjoying a nice drink on the back porch, or whatever you do in your free time. I'm just going to sit here and live in this crucible of suck until I eventually break through and it stops sucking. But, it is what it is. It simply is what it is, folks. So, all right, we're getting right down to the end of this thing. Okay, so we are going to start this thing off with the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously, like we've done every single time, we're going to start with the draft and then work our way over to the roster. So I think they really did well this offseason in putting together a personnel group that kind of addresses the needs from last year. Maybe the defense is a little bit worse than last year, but I think the offense is a little bit better. And when you have the greatest quarterback of all time, quarterback in your team, I think that's pretty much all you need. But as far as the draft goes, they traded up with the Bills, still inexplicable deal for the Bills to make in my mind. They traded up with the Bills. They get Xavier Worthy in the first round. So he's your first round pick. I think he might have some little nicks and bruises going on in training camp. I think he's going to be a stud this year. I don't know if he's going to do everything that Tyreek Hill did, because Tyreek Hill is a Hall of Fame sort of player, but he's got that same sort of speed. And I think when you put him with Patrick Mahomes, magic is going to occur. I think there's no question in my mind that Xavier Worthy is going to be a star. If you watched him at Texas, I think you would feel exactly the way I feel. I think he's going to step in and be an impact player right away, especially with the quarterback that they have there. Second round, You get Kingsley Suamataia, offensive tackle out of BYU. He's going to be asked to step up right away, especially with the departure of Donovan Smith last year. Tackle play overall was a bit of a weakness for him on the offense, kind of contributed to the other woes they had on offense, that the tackles on the offensive line were not quite what they had been in previous years. He's going to be asked to step up in a big way in year one, mark my words on that. So, third round, you get tight end Jared Wiley. Don't know if he is the heir apparent to Travis Kelce. That's kind of lofty expectations to put on the kid. But he'll probably be the second tight end this year. He'll probably contribute in some way, shape, or form, whether it be blocking or something else along those lines. If you're being drafted in the fourth round here, it's not a guarantee, but it's a pretty good chance you're going to see some degree of playing time. Again, won't be usurping Travis Kelce by any stretch of the imagination, but he will have a role, just a matter of what that role is, and I expect him to be good in that role because it's, Andy Reid, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. They're one of the best organizations in the league, one of the best cultures in the league at that, and good cultures make good players. Also in the fourth round, they get safety Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. We'll see how he slots in there. I know it's kind of thin on the back end as far as the safeties are concerned, and they're going to need those safeties, especially with L'Jarius Sneed getting traded over to the Titans this past offseason. So look for him to possibly have a big role there. Then you get into the role players, kind of the back half or back portion of the draft. If they make a contribution, that's a great plus. I don't think you're necessarily expecting a 5th through 7th round pick to step up and just be a rotational sort of player right away and make that sort of impact. So rounds 1 through 4, that is your core there for the Kansas City Chiefs. So let's take a look at the depth chart here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, need I say who the quarterback is? It's the greatest of all time. It's Patrick Mahomes, and I think people are coming over to my side on that. Don't worry, if you haven't, you will eventually. There is still room on the train. I think the first-class seats on the Patrick Mahomes greatest of all time train have been taken. There is still business class and economy, though. So if you're looking for a seat, the seats are still available. You can come on over. You are just not going to be sitting in the first class. I'm going to be, drinking my champagne and laughing at you pores as you walk by, going into business class and economy, saying, if you just gotten here early, you would have been up here with me. But unfortunately, I'm just take rich. I'm just take rich. It is what it is on that front. So yeah, greatest quarterback of all time, best quarterback in the entire league. Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. Running back Isaiah Pacheco, still there. He's an absolute beast. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, somehow still the second string back. That it boggles my mind that he is still there, but he is. And then wide receiver core. You bring in Rashee Rice last year. Has been quiet since his last debacle with law enforcement. It's good to have him back in Kansas City. Less stuff for him to get in trouble with than at, say, Dallas, where he was all off season. Still pending legal stuff, but hey, and until the legal process takes place, he is going to be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he is slotted as their number 1 wide receiver. I would say, though, Marquise Brown coming over from the Arizona Cardinals, I think he has got the opportunity to come in here and grab that number 1 wide receiver spot when it's all said and done. I really do. I think quarterback play was inconsistent. The offense was inconsistent whenever he was with the Arizona Cardinals. And I think going into that Andy Reid offense with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, I think you're going to be seeing a huge year from Marquise Brown. And it's not like he's been a bad receiver. It's just he's been kind of bouncing from situation to situation, had, injury issues with the Ravens, and then inconsistent quarterback play with the Cardinals. So I think he comes into here with the Chiefs on a 1-year prove-it deal. I don't think the Chiefs are going to have him back next year. I think he's going to sign a big deal in the offseason because I expect a big year from Marquise Brown coming into this one with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then at the third string, the aforementioned Xavier Worthy, their first-round pick this year. That is already a better 1-2-3 than they had last year by about a mile. Not even an exaggeration there. That's just how much better this receiving core is. It is faster. I think this receiving core separates better than last year. And now you still have Travis Kelce there, but you're not kind of just hoping that someone steps up. I think you got legitimately solid players up and down the roster, and you still got Kadarius Toney, you still got McCole Hardman there in the wings. You got Noah Gray as the backup tight end right now, which I'm not sure why they drafted Jared Wiley in the 4th round, because he's currently the 4th-string tight end. They brought in Irv Smith Jr. Think he might be a cut candidate, but I digress. Noah Gray is still the backup tight end, of course. Travis Kelce, one of our top 2 greatest tight end of all time. I think Gronk is still my guy, but if you're talking receiving, Travis Kelce stands in a class of his own, and we love the Flash. So a lot of people are going to say Travis Kelce is their greatest of all time, but really all around, just a great wide receiver. Not a great. I would put them solidly back end of the top 10 sort of wide receiver core. And when you have Patrick Mahomes, this is the makings of a top 5 offense once again. But what's the offensive line looking like right now? Well, interior still looks good. You got Creed Humphrey at center. You got Joe Tooney at left guard. You got Trey Smith at right guard. Same core that's been there for a long, long time and has kind of propelled the success of that run game with, the addition of Isaiah Pacheco in there to kind of amp it up a little bit. The real questions are going to be at tackle. So right now, Kingsley Suamataia is the 2nd-string left tackle. Wanya Morris is the starting left tackle. That's probably your biggest question mark. Jawan Taylor was at left tackle last year, struggled off and on. He is back to that right tackle position, which, the last time he played the right tackle on a consistent basis was with the Jaguars, which ultimately earned him $20 million a year from the Chiefs. So I think that's a good move right there. I think Jawan Taylor could play some solid snaps there at right tackle. It's just a matter of what happens with Wanya Morris. If Wanya Morris doesn't step up, does Kingsley Suamataia step in for him and end up playing quality snaps? That's the biggest question mark on this entire offense, is that left tackle position, because I think they're solid everywhere else. Obviously quarterback, obviously wide receiver, obviously interior, that offensive line. Need I say anything about the tight end? That left tackle, that is the one question mark. And since that is the one question mark, I mean, this offense, I'm calling it now. I think it's going to be the best offense in the entire league. It's going to be them and the 49ers once again at the very top of the standings for offense this year. I just think, they upgraded enough in the receiving core. I think the offensive line looks better than it did last year. You got Patrick Mahomes. You still got Isaiah Pacheco in the back end. What's not to like? Not to mention you got Andy Reid calling the offense. I guess maybe it's former Chicago Bears head coach Ryan. I forget his name. That's probably for the best. Former Chicago Bears coach. I don't think his name is actually Ryan. I don't know. Like I said, my brain is mush. I do apologize. My brain is mush. So let's look at the defense real quick. Defensive line, you still got George Karlaftis and you still got Chris Jones. So that's a 1-2 punch that's as good as any in the league when you talk about defensive linemen. Derek Nottie played solid in stretches last year. He's anchor in the middle there. I'm looking at this wrong. I thought it was a 3-4. They're in a 4-3. So you got Mike Dana and George Karlaftis on the outside. Questions about Mike Dana. I know Charles Omenihu, he's injured right now. We'll see what that all shakes out to be for him. But you love George Karlaftis. You love Chris Jones. Mike Dana's going to have to step up. I know he played well in spurts last year, but he's going to be stepping into a big-time role there until Charles Omenihu comes back, and I don't really know what his status is outside of him being out here on the ESPN depth chart. So solid defensive line, nothing to sneeze at there. Then you go behind it. Just a deep linebacking core last year, and even with losing Willie Gay, you've got Leo Chenal back there, Nick Bolton coming back for another season, and then Drew Tranquill, who, played Willie Gay out of the lineup last year and signed an extension this offseason. So you got to feel great. You got to feel really good about what you got in the front seven right now, and with one of the best defensive coordinators in the whole league in Steve Spagnuolo, I love the makeup of this defensive line. A couple weak spots here and there, but when you got stars like Chris Jones specifically and George Karlaftis secondarily, low-key even Nick Bolton at the middle linebacker there, another low-key star in that group. Nothing there to really worry about right now. What you should be worrying about is the secondary because I'm looking at, obviously, Justin Reed, solid safety, nothing to worry about there. But you look on the outside, you got Joshua Williams at one cornerback spot, Najee Johnson at the other quarterback spot, who I apologize to that man. I'm unfamiliar with his work. And then Trent McDuffie in the nickelback. I think Trent McDuffie's probably your best player, but he is also a nickel. On the outside, also, not to mention free safety Brian Cook, who, again, I am unfamiliar with his work. I do apologize to that man. It's going to be tough sledding on the back end this year. The secondary is undeniably worse than they were a year before. That's going to happen when you lose L'Jarius Sneed back there on the outside. So, I don't think the defense is as good as they were last year. But I also think when you have Steve Spagnuolo and you have those stars in the front seven, they could definitely push top 10 once again. I don't think they're going to be consistent top 10, one of the best defenses in the entire league. I don't think they're going to be carrying the team to the Super Bowl like they did, frankly, for all the postseason last year. But I also think the offense is good enough now to where I don't think they really have to at the end of the day. So, ceiling for this defense, still back into the top 10. I would see them kind of in the top half of the league, kind of hovering around in that, that low teens sort of area. So you bring it all together, and as far as the floor for this team, I mean, I have a hard time seeing them get less than, say, 11 wins. And I know that's a high floor for them. If they get less than 11 wins, I would be shocked with what they have. If they get less than 11 wins, it's probably due to an injury to Patrick Mahomes. Knock on wood, no one actually wants that, but that's really the only way I see them getting less than 11 wins. They're going to be a postseason team, basically no matter what in my mind. Ceiling, 14, 15 wins, something like that. They're a high ceiling team. And especially if that defense once again is in the back end of the top 10, I know what the offense is going to do. I think it's going to be the best in the entire league. If the defense is also in that same category, they could easily reel off 14, 15 wins this year. I'm putting their prediction here at 13-4 though. I think 13-4 is the number for them. I think I probably should have just checked to make sure this jives with what I was thinking for the way too early predictions or recklessly early predictions. But I think they're going to get 13 wins. I think they're going to be they're going to be either the 1 or the 2 seed this year, and they're going to make a deep playoff run for a three-peat, which has never been done in the NFL, and honestly, I would say they're probably the favorites to do so at this point. So Chiefs, once again, I think they got better this offseason on offense, and I think they kept up enough of a level on the defense to where I just think they're probably a better team overall, and last year's team won the Super Bowl. So the rich keep getting richer. The GOAT resume keeps getting stronger at the end of the day. With that, though, let us take a look at the second ranked team. Actually, no, we're just going to go in standings from last year because I'm too lazy to move this thing around. So let's go to the Chargers. Let's go to the Chargers, shall we? They were god awful. I mean, poo-poo stinky bad last year. They were so bad it was painful to watch last year. But they got a good draft going. They got, Jim Harbaugh in the building, really solid NFL head coach. You got Joe Ortiz, who did a great job on the personnel side of things, bringing in quality players and getting them out of cap hell, essentially. Not a great roster, but let's take a look at how they improved this offseason, because I really think they did. So, starting off, round 1, 5th overall, they get the best tackle in the draft, Joe Alt, physical freak, like 6'8", 6'9", moves like an absolute gazelle out there. He should be a star at tackle right away, and he will slot in perfectly opposite of Rashawn Slater. I was able to come up with the name before my brain completely crapped out. Him and Rashawn Slater. If Joe Alt lives up to the hype, I don't think he's played right tackle ever, so it's no guarantee that he slots in and is good right away. But he's enough of an athlete to where I think he can figure it out. If he shows up as advertised, that right tackle spot opposite of Rashawn Slater, boy oh boy, because this offensive line eat this season, especially when you already got Zion Johnson there in the middle playing some solid football. In the second round, they get something they really, really needed. They got a wide receiver. In a deep wide receiver class, they get Ladd McConkey, who was projected to maybe even sneak into the first round. They get him second overall in the second round. And I'm here to tell you, folks, I think Ladd McConkey is going to be the number one receiver for the LA Chargers. I think he's going to work more out of the slot. But I think he is going to be their most prolific receiver this season. I think Justin Herbert is going to absolutely love throwing him the football this year. That was a great pickup in the second round to get Ladd McConkey and Joe Alt in rounds 1 and 2. That great start to the draft for Joe Ortiz. And, of course, third round, one of the many holes on the team, linebacker. You basically just purged your entire linebacking core, which wasn't very good last season. You bring in Michigan guy, Junior Colson. You may remember from the draft, Jim Harbaugh with the 1,000-yard stare singing the Michigan fight song in the draft room when they drafted Junior Colson. I think coming into that Jesse Minter defense, already a fair degree of confidence from Jesse Minter in that guy. I think he is going to play a big role for him this year, and they're going to need him to with how thin they are on that defensive side of the ball. That's good continuity right there, going from having Jesse Minter at Michigan to now being Jesse Minter's player in the NFL. Love that pickup for him, especially for a defense that was one of, if not the best in college football last year. Not a bad culture guy to bring in whatsoever. A guy that you can kind of like build around culture-wise. Is a third-round pick, so, limit expectations here. I think he's going to be playing a big role for them this season. Fourth round, you get Justin Eboigbe. I do not know. He's a defensive tackle out of Alabama, and once again, you're thin basically everywhere on the defense. Defensive tackle in the fourth round, not a bad idea. And then from there, they get a bunch of depth. They get Cornelius Johnson, wide receiver from Michigan, in the seventh round. You get Brendan Rice, son of the great Jerry Rice, also in the seventh round. One of those two, if not both of those two, will be asked to play major snaps this year. I don't know which one it is. But I'm telling you right now, that receiver core is poo-poo stink garbage, and I think it's going to be a lot of young players who you ask to step up, and of course Josh Palmer, who just always finds a way to just hang around. He's just there always on the Los Angeles Chargers. You don't know how he stays there for all these years, but he's just there. He's just there. So, with all of that said, let's take a look at the depth chart for the Los Angeles Chargers here. Obviously, Justin Herbert at quarterback. Don't need to say anything about him. He is probably a top 5 quarterback. At the very worst, he is top 10. He is spectacular when he is in the proper offense. No guarantee that'll be the case with Greg Roman, but I digress. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league, and I'll fight anyone on that. Running back, you pick up, a pair of Ravens running backs, following Joe Ortiz over from the Ravens. You get Gus Edwards as the starter, and you get J.K. Dobbins as the backup. And that'll probably be your 1-2 punch all season, assuming that both stay healthy. Not a bad 1-2 there, and I think it really kind of, again, Greg Roman, another guy that worked with both of these guys when he was with the Ravens. Continuity with that offense. If both of them stay healthy, I think you should have a good physical running game, if nothing else, behind those two guys. And you look at the wide receiver core. Joshua Palmer, the aforementioned, is ranked number 1 right now. I am unconvinced that it will stay that way. I think Ladd McConkey has a lot more upside. I think he's built to get damn near 100 catches walking in the door pretty much. So I think Ladd McConkey's going to be that number 1 by the end of the year. He's currently slated as the number 2. Hey, how about DJ Chark, man? I forgot that dude existed. He just went to the Lions last year and just right in the bed, dude. Just did bad, was injured all year, was, on that 1-year sort of prove-it deal, and then ultimately didn't prove it. Or was he with the Lions or was he with the Panthers? I can't quite remember. I believe he was with the Lions. Either way, he was injured basically all year, didn't have great production, so now he comes over to the Los Angeles Chargers on another 1-year deal, and he's your third receiver. Quentin Johnston, One player I was absolutely wrong about coming out of college. We'll see if in the new offense he shows even an ounce of life. He has got some ground to make up, though. Darius Davis, another draft pick from last year. He is your fifth wide receiver, and then you got Brendan Rice, and then a bunch of guys who you don't know. You don't know. I don't need to say their names. Tight end. Looking at Will Disley right now as the starting tight end, Hayden Hurst as the backup, which I just hope Hayden Hurst is okay. That's the main thing. I just hope he's okay and has a long, happy life after he retires. See the entire concussion saga. He had concussion-related amnesia last year that got him out for the season, essentially. So, again, I just hope Hayden Hurst is okay. As far as what the wide receivers are, they're undeniably worse than they were last year, but they're younger. They're with a new coaching staff. And honestly, you take a look at the offensive line, and okay, so Jamari Sawyer is your right guard. That's probably your biggest question mark. You got Bradley Bozeman at center, who played fairly well. Zion Johnson at guard, who played very well. And then at tackle, you got a legit star in Rashawn Slater at left tackle. At right tackle, you've got Joe Alt, who you expect to be a star at some point. This offensive line, especially with a run-happy head coach, a run-happy offensive coordinator in Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, respectively, I love what they put together on the offensive line, and I think they have the pieces to kind of put together an offense that I think fits Greg Roman's skill set as a play caller. I think they're going to be physical running the ball. They're going to be creative running the ball. And I think they're going to be so good at running the ball that it's going to create opportunities for them in the past. And I think guys like Joshua Palmer and Ladd McConkey are going to take advantage of. I don't think this is going to be a top 10 offense by any stretch of the imagination. There's still, some improvement that needs to be made. I think they're going to be better than people expect, though. I'm looking at this depth chart, and I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing, especially with the coaching staff they've got. I think Jim Harbaugh is building this offense the right way. I think after next offseason, you're going to look up and be like, wow, they have got a legitimately impressive group of personnel over there. Still probably one off season away from doing that, though. So I like the core of what they're putting together. I really do like the core of what they're putting together. On defense, not so much. So the defensive line, they've got Morgan Fox. Oh, I apologize to this man in advance. Otito Ogbonia. I don't know. Otito Ogbonia is your nose tackle. Unfamiliar with his work. I wish him all of the success and prosperity in the world. And then you got Poona Ford, who maybe he's got something left in the tank. We'll see. It's better than what they had last year. So there is that. On the outside, you've still got the whatever is left in the tank for Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Joey Bosa is great when he's out there, but he's never out there. Khalil Mack is just, I don't want to say washed up. He might have something left in the tank. He is not the defensive player of the year that he once was, though. So great names, not exactly great production at the end of the day. Then you're looking at Junior Colson, already slotted in there as the starting inside linebacker. That should tell you pretty much everything you need to know about the depth at linebacker. And then Denzel Perryman, who is a tackling machine, but a little bit of a liability. Excuse me, easy for me to say. A little bit of a liability in the coverage standpoint. So looking at the front seven on the whole, not great. I'd probably rank them somewhere in the 20s. A couple good names, but as far as production, I think you're going to be wanting for that production. I don't love what the Chargers are putting out there, and this is kind of what's going to hold them back at the end of the day, because it doesn't get a whole lot better on the back end. You got Asante Samuel Jr., who he's flashed off and on, maybe in a little bit better defensive scheme. We'll see if Jesse Minter kind of puts him in some better positions than Brandon Staley did while he was there. You got Derwin James, who I like as well. Then you got Alohi Gilman, who, unfamiliar with that guy's work. He's a young player. Maybe he steps up and becomes a great free safety. Who's to say, though? And you're looking at Christian Fulton at the other cornerback, Jasir Taylor at nickelback, whom I've never heard of in my entire life. So basically, what you're hoping for from this defense is that Jesse Minter comes in, is a revelation, and kind of schemes up some stuff that, offsets the deficiencies that are inherently in this defensive roster. Again, probably an offseason or two away from putting together a good defense. I have no question in my mind that Jim Harbaugh is going to get there, but this just isn't the makeup of a great group. And on the whole, I look at this defense, and if it wasn't for Jesse Minter, I would say they have no chance in hell of finishing anywhere near the top half of the league. But with my respect to Jesse Minter, I love what he did at Michigan last year. Obviously facing NFL offenses this time around. But you know what? You could have said the same thing about Mike Macdonald when he went from Michigan over to the Baltimore Ravens, and now he is the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks because of how great he was with the Baltimore Ravens. Jim Harbaugh just has a knack for finding defensive coordinators, just finding coordinators in general. So I believe in Jesse Minter. So I'll give them a chance of finishing in the middle of the pack. But you look at this defense, and I think the front seven is going to get tore up unless they do something creatively with the scheme. I think the back end, there are big time holes on the back end that I think can be exploited. This is just a defense that you look at you look at the personnel and it just screams finishing in the 20s, whether that be the high 20s or the low 20s. I'll leave that to them to figure out, but I don't see them finishing great this year unless Jesse Minter shows up and is everything as advertised. Again, easy for me to say. My brain is just mashed potatoes and scrambled eggs right now. So looking at the Chargers, the floor for them, I would still say probably 6-11. I mean, if the defense is just abjectly terrible, I could see them improving to a point, but at the end of the day, losing a lot of games that they should win just by virtue of being in the same division as the Chiefs. I think the Raiders are going to be a solid defense this year that, maybe the offense will be good enough to win one or two against them. There is ample opportunity for the Chargers to be bad this year and be right at the top of the draft once again. On the other hand, though, and this is kind of a hot take, I feel like if all goes well, if Jesse Minter shows up and is as advertised, if Justin Herbert is a revelation in this Greg Roman offense, which would buck some trends for quarterback play, but I digress when it comes to Greg Roman. I love this offensive line. I love the running scheme with Greg Roman. If Jesse Minter just shows up as advertised, 10-7, not out of the question for this Chargers team. They're a low ceiling. They're a low floor, kind of a mid-ranked ceiling. I could certainly see this team making a playoff push in year one under the new regime. As far as my prediction, I think. I'm having a hard time deciding whether to pick 7-10 or 8-9. You know what? I'm going to give benefit of the doubt to Jesse Minter. I love Jesse Minter. I think they're going to finish 8-9. I think they're going to be better than some people expect, but there's just still too many holes on this team for them to make a real playoff push, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a good start, a good culture-building year, but ultimately still a year away from making a real playoff push with what they have in there. So, with that, we are getting to the other half of the division. So let's take a look at the Raiders real quick. Go on over to Las Vegas here. And great defense last year, bad offense. They did some things to kind of improve on that offensive line, but let's take a quick look at them. Starting with the draft. I mean, when Brock Bowers drops right into your lap at 13, I don't give a damn if you drafted Michael Mayer last year. You kind of got to take the guy. So they draft Brock Bowers in round 1, and man, if Michael Mayer comes along from what, his draft position last year, he played really well down the stretch last year. Man, this tight end group could be just downright filthy and disgusting, which you might need with the quarterback situation, which we'll get to here in just a bit. Brock Bowers, pound for pound, probably the best football player in the draft last year. I have no questions about him whatsoever. My only questions are, will this new offensive scheme with the Bears offensive coordinator last year, Luke Getsy, does he step in and provide a little bit of juice for him? We shall see. I think Brock Bowers is only going to help in that, and he can help in a variety of ways. He is just an absolute specimen of an athlete. Again, for my money, the best pound-for-pound football player in the draft dropped to him at 13. You basically have to take the guy. So I love that pick. Second round, you get Jackson Powers Johnson in the center. He's center out of Oregon on that offensive line. He's probably going to step in right away and help out that offensive line. Been really a work in progress for years at this point. And then sticking with the offensive line, you get DeMar Glaze out of Maryland, an offensive tackle there in the third round. There's a good chance he steps in and plays fairly early. And then, fourth round, you get Mississippi State cornerback DeCamerion Richardson. I don't hold it against you. You didn't play a single down for Ole Miss. So, hey, water under the bridge, my man. I hope for the best for you at the next level. That secondary is a constant work in progress once again, so he'll probably find his way into the lineup there. Then you're looking at, Tommy Eichenberg in the fifth round, Ohio State standout, real big work ethic, lunch pail type of guy, coach's son, if you know what I'm saying, coming in there in the fifth round for him. And then it's just, it's a bunch of rotational players, so I don't really need to waste my time on that front. Let's take a look at the depth chart for him, though, real quick. What's this depth chart looking like for the Las Vegas Raiders? So, at quarterback, we have a bona fide QB competition, folks. So Gardner Minshew, who they paid like $12.5 million to a year this offseason, he's the presumptive starter. But Aiden O'Connell is splitting first-team reps, and it seems like a dead heat. There won't be any real decision on that quarterback situation until we get through some preseason games here, and you're going to be seeing both of them split reps at the quarterback position. Exciting stuff. I'm not sure it's necessarily a great thing when you have a quarterback competition, but it allows the cream to rise to the top, and it feels like Aiden O'Connell might have the inside track there. I mean, Gardner Minshew is the presumptive starter right now. They paid him all that money. But Aiden O'Connell wasn't terrible last year and played in kind of a limiting offensive scheme when he got in there last year. So that's one to watch at the quarterback position. That'll be the main thing that holds them back if something does end up holding them back this year. At running back, you got Zamir White stepping in for the departing Josh Jacobs. You got Alexander Madison coming over there as the second string. Oof, that's quite a pickup there. All the luck in the world to Alexander Madison. I think he showed several years in a row that he's not a great running back. I wish him all the health, wealth, and prosperous nature to him and his family. I just don't believe in him very much. So if you're a Raiders fan, you better hope that Zamir White steps in and plays well right away. I'll just put it that way. Then at the wide receiver core, you got Devontae Adams, who is just trapped on this god-awful quarterback situation, wants to leave something fierce. The Jets are pining for him right now, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers being there. We'll see if he sticks around throughout the course of the season or if he gets traded away. Or if he gets traded away. You still got Jacoby Myers there. Trey Tucker steps in as the third wide receiver with the departing white guy wide receiver, Hunter Renfrow. Lost his name for a second, but found it. So Trey Tucker is going to be asked to step up. And you got Jalen Guyton, DJ Turner, Christian Wilkerson as your depth at wide receiver. And, just a great group of young tight ends. Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. Brock Bowers already slated as that starting tight end. I think he's going to be playing a lot more receiving stuff this year. Michael Mayer is going to be asked to do a little bit more of the dirty work, I would say, this upcoming season. But great group of tight ends there, all kind of held back by the quarterback situation. And let's take a quick look at the offensive line here. You got Colton Miller there, just solid, underrated tackle. Andrews Pete, by the way, backup offensive tackle on this team. That's where he ended up. Who would have thunk it? Who would have known? Not me, that's for damn sure. At left guard, you got Dylan Parham. Center, you got Andre James, who's a solid, returning starter. Jackson Powers Johnson, formerly a center in college. He'll be slotted in at right guard. Then you got Thayer Munford Jr. at right tackle. They're not as bad as, say, the Washington Commies or the New York Giants. I think they're right around that Mendoza line of just an average offensive line. You got a couple guys to be excited about in there, and a couple guys where you're like, not so sure about that. You got a head coach that is going to want to run the damn ball. So it helps out when you're a middling offensive line to have a little bit more of a physical running game. Again, you're hoping Zamir White comes out and plays very, very well if you're a Raiders fan. That's the main thing. I look at this offense on the whole, though, and there's some things to like. The quarterback situation scares me. Overall, I'd probably end up ranking them in the low 20s, like somewhere around that 20 to 23 range. The quarterback situation scares me at the end of the day. I can't get past the quarterback situation. If they had solid quarterback play that I could, reliably count on, they'd probably be somewhere in the middle of the pack, especially when you still got Devontae Adams, who is, at the very worst, a top 5 wide receiver still, no matter what his production is. He's trapped. That's the best way to put it. He is trapped in this situation. Again, if they had quality quarterback play, I might put him there in the middle, but I just don't trust who they have there on this roster at quarterback. So I put them right there in the low 20s. That's probably the best case scenario for them. Defensively, boy. Let me read out this shit to you, folks. So, right off the bat, we have got Max Crosby, who is maybe the best pass rusher in the entire league, right up there with the Myles Garrett's, the TJ Watts in the world, as most dominant pass rushers in the entire league. Consistently leads defensive linemen in snaps played every single year, pretty much, Max Crosby. He is a workhorse, and he is a freak. You bring in Christian Wilkins from the Miami Dolphins, maybe the best run defender in the entire league. You slot him there in the middle. And really, it doesn't even matter who else is on that defensive line. I mean, you got John Jenkins and Malcolm Kuntz. Don't care. When you got Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, really does not matter who the other guys that you have on that defensive line are. That duo is going to make up for a lot of deficiencies throughout the entire defense. Just a group of studs up there between Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. Then behind them, you're looking at a human dump truck in Robert Spillane. Hits people harder than just about anyone in this entire league. Then you're looking at a little bit as well in the linebacking core. You got Divine Diablo and Luke Masterson as the outside linebackers. Divine Diablo, a fine enough young player. Luke Masterson, I am unfamiliar with his game at this point. We'll see if he plays some decent amount of minutes there, decent amount of snaps. But overall, I think the strength of Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins is going to carry this front seven when it's all said and done. I can't speak highly enough of what I think about Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. And you just hope that there isn't an injury, because this defensive line is going to be must-watch television. I cannot wait to watch it. And you know what? Looking at the back end, I mean, there's still some serious questions on the back end here. But I mean, solid couple of safeties, Trayvon Merrick and Marcus Epps. You got Jack Jones out there on the outside. Nate Hobbs somehow slated in as the starting nickelback and the starting right corner. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But you also got Jacorian Bennett last year, really fast rookie from last season, who you're expecting to step up this season. You got Brandon Faison, sitting back there in the wings. Just a good, solid, sort of deep group on the back end, which has not been the case. That wasn't the case last year, going into last season from what I saw. And you know what I like? I like the makeup all of a sudden of this Raiders secondary. And because of that, I feel like this defense, with the two stars that they have on the defensive line, the solid play that they have on the back end, I think they are a bona fide top 10 unit this year. I really do believe with what they have coming back, with the head coach they have and Antonio Pierce playing behind that defense, I really do believe that they're going to be a top 10 team. I don't think they're going to be a top 5 defense. I think they're going to be solidly in the top 10, though. Maybe sneaking into that back end of the top 10. I really, really love the makeup of this defensive core, though, for the Raiders. So bringing it all together, let's look at the floor of the Raiders. And I think the floor, They're a relatively high floor team. I'd put them at about 7-10, which is a really high floor for what their offense and all the questions that they have there at the quarterback position. And that's really just kind of expecting, like, hey, the quarterbacks play bad and the offense never gets going. And the defense, I don't think there's a whole lot of drop off from the defense. Maybe offenses kind of exploit a couple of the holes that are in that front seven. You get to that second level and maybe it's off to the races. I don't know. I feel like the defense is something that you can count on in this situation. It's just the offense is going to be the wild card. So 7-10 is the floor for them. I think if nothing else, they're going to be a feisty team. They're going to be in most games that they're in. Ceiling, I mean, probably like 10-7. I mean, I don't see their ceiling super, super high. They're a high floor, low ceiling type of team. There's just only so far you're going to get with the quarterbacks that they have. Again, it's the big thing holding me back from feeling good about this team is that quarterback room. So 10-7, that's reasonable for their ceiling. I would say my prediction for them, I would say 9-8 this year. I think they're going to be good enough on the defensive side of the ball that they can make up for some offensive woes that may or may not happen. I would say probably would lean toward it happening. So I would say 9-8 because that defense is going to be, putting them in some games where they maybe don't have any business doing, and you do that enough, you're gonna win some of those games that you're not expected to. So 9-8. Maybe they make a playoff spot, maybe they don't. They're going to be right in the mix of it at the end of the day, though. I love Antonio Pierce as a head coach. I love this defense. There's still, some holes in the roster that GM is going to have to figure out there. I forget that man's name. That is on me. I do apologize. It's Tom Telesco. Tom Telesco's got his work cut out for him as a GM, and. Based on the way that he built the Chargers, no guarantee that he ends up, doing that successfully. But 9-8. 9-8 is what I'm feeling for him this year. Finally, let's take a look at the Denver Broncos. And boy, I mean, cue the Sarah McLachlan. This is a rough roster right here, man. They were in cap hell with having signed the worst contract of all time, coming off of the worst trade of all time. With Russell Wilson. The man that made that trade and signed that contract is, by the way, still the general manager, George Payton. Not sure how that happened, but that's by the by at this point. So just holes all over the roster. I mean, basically, you just look at Patrick Surtain and Cortland Sutton for a while they're still there and be like, wow, we still have a couple stars on both sides of the ball. Isn't that something? And you just laser focus on those two, because outside of them, it is a barren, desolate wasteland of talent. So let's just start with the draft here. In the first round, they draft Bo Nix, number 12 overall, and we'll just put it bluntly. I think they are just about the only team that viewed Bo Nix as a first-round pick. Maybe you get scared there at 12. He's the last real, quality, possible starting level quarterback there left on the board. The Raiders are sitting there at 13, so maybe a bit of a panic pick. You go ahead, you take him at number 12 overall. He's going to start from day one because your backup is, Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham, so he's going to start from day one. You hope that he is everything that Sean Payton sees him as. We shall find out very soon, though. So he's your presumptive franchise quarterback. We'll see. That's the best thing I can say is we'll see on that front. Then the next pick they have is in the third round with Jonah Ellis, edge out of Utah. Couldn't help to get more edge talent on this team because they're basically bereft of it. Wide receiver Troy Franklin they take in the fourth round. Hey, keep in mind, deep wide receiver class. You're looking at fourth round picks that could step up in a big way. I think Troy Franklin is that type of receiver that could step up in a big way for him, especially in this Sean Payton offense. Can't forget he's one of the best play callers of, the past generation. So you got to give respect where respect is due. Then you're looking at, Chris Abrams-Drain, Missouri cornerback coming out. Then Audric Estime, who might be playing a bigger role there, especially with Javonte Williams coming off of some injury problems over the last couple of seasons. Drafting Audric Estime in the 5th round, watch out for that one, folks. Watch out. He is a bruiser. He is faster than people expect, and he is an absolute load. Reminds me a lot of Gus Edwards. Got a whole lot of Gus Edwards in him where he's just an absolute, a problem at the goal line. I think he's quicker than people give him credit for. I love that pickup for him in the 5th round, especially in that Sean Payton run scheme. I think that's big. That's really big. And then you're looking at basically depth from there. So let's take a look at this train wreck that is the depth chart for the Denver Broncos. Obviously, Bo Nix slated as the starter. Who's to say what's there? I'm an optimist, so let's just hope he plays well at the end of the day. Javonte Williams still slated as the starting running back. Audric Estime actually the 4th string running back coming into camp behind Jaleel McLaughlin. So that's wild to me. I guess it speaks to the depth in that backfield for him. But Javonte Williams still the starting running back for him. Then you look at the wide receiver core. Courtland Sutton, he is disgruntled. He does not want to be there and has really made no bones about it. So might be a trade deadline thing. They need draft picks and they need to clear cap space, so that would make a whole lot of sense as a trade deadline deal for some contending team. So keep an eye on that one. Your second wide receiver is Josh Reynolds, followed by Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin. Josh Reynolds, by the way, coming over from the Lions, where he's had a couple solid years in a row. He's going to be asked to step up in a big-time way coming over to the Broncos, though. And then you got Greg Dulcich de Leche sitting out there at tight end. Overall, Tim Patrick coming off of the ACL. We'll see if he kind of, returns to former glory. There's certainly no guarantee of that coming off of that major injury that he had. So if he steps up, hey, maybe this receiving core could be something to work with here. But I just look at everything outside of Courtland Sutton, and it just screams mid to me. And mid doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. I think mid gets overused in a bad sense. I mean mid in the literal sense. I think this is a middling receiver group at the very best. Now, would I rank them towards the bottom of the middle? Yes, I absolutely would. You take out Courtland Sutton, and it's even worse than that. But they still do have Courtland Sutton, so they're probably somewhere in the high teens at this point. When you look at the offensive line, they had actually... Taking a look at the offensive line, not a bad group coming back here. Garrett Bowles has kind of come into his own after, having some struggles early in his career. So he's your left tackle. Ben Powers, you paid a whole lot of money coming over from the Raiders. Sam Mustipher is probably your biggest question mark there. But, you got Quinn Miners there, who has been an absolute road grader ever since he came in. Mike McGlinchey, just a solid right tackle coming over from the 49ers. I like this group of offensive linemen. I think this is a really solid group of offensive linemen, and if they can get that running game going, maybe it opens some things up for them in the passing game. I think they're going to have to be run first this year in order to make some waves on the offensive side of the ball. It's just looking at that quarterback situation, man. I have zero clue what to expect from Bo Nix. The range of possibilities is vast. Obviously Sean Payton thinks the world of him, drafting him number 12 overall, or maybe that's just abject lying cope like we've seen from free agents. We've seen from Sean Payton before. Also, maybe he just fell in love with the wrong guy. If you would remember, he wanted to start Taysom Hill so bad at quarterback, and he's just simply not a quarterback. So, spotty track record of evaluating quarterback talent from Sean Payton. We'll just say that much. Because of the uncertainty at the quarterback position, I love the offensive line here, but I have a hard time seeing this offense finish outside of probably middle of the pack. And that's with respect to Sean Payton. Without Sean Payton there, it's probably bottom of the middle of the pack. But I do respect Sean Payton. I respect the running backs that they've got there. I respect that offensive line they have. So we'll call them a solidly middle of the pack sort of offense. Then you look at the defense, and it's just... it's not great. Solid enough front three in John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, and Zach Allen. But you look behind them. You look at these pass rushers. You're looking at Jonathan Cooper and not Levi Wallace, he's a cornerback, Baron Browning, with the inside linebackers being Alex Singleton and Cody Barton. That's just not a very good group of linebackers right there, and that's a downright bad group of pass rushers there. One of the worst pass rushing groups, I would say, in the entire league. They are going to struggle. Mark my words on that. There's not really any way around it. This front seven is going to struggle. And then you look at the back end. Obviously, Patrick Surtain, stud, no questions about that. But you just basically completely purge the secondary outside of him. You're starting Brandon Jones at free safety, P.J. Locke at strong safety. Levi Wallace is not a terrible cornerback on the other side, but those safeties leave a lot to be desired. And then you got Jaquan McMillan at nickelback, who, once again, I apologize to that man. I am unfamiliar with his work. This defense screams mid to low 20s, even with Patrick Surtain in there, even with an okay front three. There is just holes up and down this defense that I just don't see them getting fixed in this upcoming season. So I think this defense is going to struggle. I think the offense is going to be middling. And because of that, my floor for this team is about as low of a floor as you could expect for a team. 4-13. I think 4-13 is about as bad as it could be, and that is if Bo Nix is terrible. If the defense finishes as one of the worst in the entire league, you're talking probably about an offense that's ranked in the low to mid 20s, a defense that is ranked in the high 20s. Not a good recipe for success. They could very easily finish as one of the worst teams in the entire NFL this year. In fact, they might end up being the worst team in the NFL this year. Ceiling, 7-10. I would say it's not a high ceiling at all. I just feel like this defense is going to hold them back. Even if Bo Nix shows up and plays well, shows some promise. I mean, the receiving core outside of Cortland Sutton is suspect. Maybe you have a solid offense, but I just don't see a reality where this defense finishes in the top half of the league. I don't see a way around it. There's just too many holes on that defense that I just don't see them finishing better than 7-10. And for my prediction, I think 6-11. I think 6-11, they're going to be a top 10 team. Not in the terms of the NFL standings. I think they're going to be a top 10 team in the draft this year, which, for the rebuild, not a terrible idea. You're finally purging the last of the mistake that was that Russell Wilson trade. So you've got that to look forward to. You're still just probably a couple seasons away from actually building this thing into a solid unit. So I think they finished last in the division. I think they finished with a top 10 pick this year. And, I think they're going to have patience with Sean Payton. We'll see what happens with the other Payton in the building. I really don't know why he still has a job there, quite frankly. So I digress on that front. That is your preview for the AFC West. And with that, thank you all so much for tuning in. We do this thing once a week during the off season, but football season is right around the corner. If you just take a couple quick whiffs, you can smell it. You can smell football on the air. We are almost there, folks. We are almost there. And once we get there, we'll be back to 2 episodes a week. Mark my words on that. It's going to be the best time of the year. It's going to be torrid. It is going to be a lot of work, and it's going to be a goddamn blast. Cannot wait for it. But during the off season, we do this thing once a week on Tuesdays, unless there's just too many headlines, and then we split it up into 2 episodes like we did last week. But we release episodes on Tuesdays during the off season. If you would like to, subscribe, go ahead and subscribe wherever you're listening to this, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, wherever you're listening. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, share it with people, help me grow this damn thing a little bit. We are still seeing increased numbers of listeners, and that is because all of you out there keep sharing it. Keep on getting this thing growing. We got to be relentless with this thing if we want to continue to keep growing. So, Outside of that, if you want to contact me, get some input on the show, you can slide in my DMs on Twitter. It's at CalebVUA. You can also hit me up at the email. It's unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Links to both of those are going to be in the description for your perusing purposes. So, with that said, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. As always, I have got just about no clue what I am talking about. One thing I learned this week, though, Caitlin Clark already has more career assists than over 75% of players in WNBA history, and that's probably gone up at this point. Although it's the Olympics, so there's no WNBA being played. She's done that, has more career assists than 75% of players that have ever played in the WNBA in 26 games. Shout out to Caitlin Clark. That's an insane stat. I'm going to go edit this. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will be back next week with the NFC West preview. A little bit more competitive divisions, so stick around for that. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed. I will see y'all next Tuesday. See ya.